Okay, welcome. So today is our Wednesday Bliss Techniques meeting, and it's nice to have you here. So first of all, let's we'll be having a guided practice, and it will be nice if you have the ability to have a space that you can on the floor where you can be on your hands and knees, where you could maybe lie down on your back. Um, and uh, for some of today's exploration, I'll suggest that one variation would be that you can do the exploration while you're kneeling, um, with your like sitting on your heels. So if that's comfortable for you, then that will be great. Of course, you're going to want padding on the floor. It shouldn't be a bare floor. But if you're comfortable sitting on your heels on that padded floor, then that would be great. Or if you're close to comfortable but not quite comfortable, then you probably would want to have some you'd want to have a blanket that you could fold or roll to put either under, depending on where you feel the discomfort. You would want that under the ankles, or kind of under the ankles, or under the, or between the thighs and the lower legs. So those are options. But if none of that's going to work for you, then be great if you had a chair that you could sit in for that portion. So, and if that's not going to work for you today, none of those are options for you today, then that's fine. We'll figure something else out. But if you're going to sit in a chair, a flat bottom chair where you can put your feet on the floor, would be optimal. And it will make sense why, I hope, when we get to that part, if we get to that part of our exploration for today. So I've given you, I think, everything that you're going to need, maybe, for today's exploration. And of course, you need to be present. But before we get into that, I want to just briefly explain what the purpose of the guided practice is, so that you can make the most of it. So the purpose of the guided practice is multifold, I suppose. One is to give you a an experience during the meeting that will be healing for you. So it should be a benefit to you. So you will receive that healing on many levels, as many levels as you're open to. And that's entirely up to you. It's not, I'm not like, doing weird things over here. It's up to you. It's just that the healing is available. The practice is designed just to support you in locating the healing within yourself or within nature and receiving it. So that's how it works. And that healing can be on, as they say, on all levels or any level, and it can be applied in whatever way you would most desire. So that could be physical healing, could be mental healing, could be emotional healing, could be healing of relationships. It could be any kind of healing. And here I use the term healing to indicate a restoration of wholeness. So Mother Nature is already complete. Life is already complete. So we don't need to fix anything. We don't need to be in that role of the mechanic. It's not a role we want to be in anyway. So we're wanting to, but the good news is that we don't need to fix anything, because wholeness is already here. So all we have to do is, as I said already, we have to discover where it is, which is here. But we have to actually discover that directly so that it's a real experience for us, and then receive it. So that's the restoration of wholeness. So I hope that that's clear. Okay, so now let's get started, as if we hadn't already. We'll get started with the guided practice. So you're going to want to start by being reasonably comfortable. You can be in any posture that you wish. Will momentarily, I'll give instruction for specific postures, but presently you could be sitting on a chair, on a couch, on the floor. You could be lying down. You could be standing up. Anything that's comfortable for you, where you can feel well supported. Because before we do any of the rest of it, we need to do the most important thing, which is get clear on what the intention is for today, or for this practice, or for life in general. And as I've pointed out before, and so those who've heard it before will maybe, think, oh, I already know this, and maybe you do. But it's always helpful to approach it freshly, as if you didn't know. So I'll invite you to just imagine that you don't know, and to hear whatever is to be said with that kind of openness and curiosity, as if you really honestly didn't know, as if it was the first time you'd ever heard any such thing. So I want you to consider right now that you know what is good. You don't necessarily know how to produce that good, or where to find the good, or the various names of the good, or any of these kinds of things. I mean, that's all a bit of the confusion that we experience in our lives. But in a more general sense, you know goodness. You can immediately recognize goodness when it's directly experienced, simply because there's I guess we could say, a resonance. There's a recognition of that goodness, which is already within you. So you know that goodness because it's whatever the apparent external experience or external phenomena may be, the goodness itself is known directly. So you can just see anytime that you've had any glimpse or inkling or imagination of goodness in your life, even just the imagination, even just the hope or aspiration for goodness, or even if that's too much of a stretch, even just the recognition of what's not good is in contrast with what is good. And so therefore the good is actually already within you. It's already known within you. So this goodness, which resides in you, of course, you don't own it. It's not exclusively yours, but it is within you. This goodness is, we could say, desirous of expressing itself. So you have desires. You have desires to know and express and experience and perceive this goodness. Now, this might all seem like obvious, or maybe not obvious. I don't know. Or maybe it seems trivial. I don't know how it seems to you. But I want to again encourage you to hear it in a fresh way, as if you really didn't know. And just to be curious about this idea, whatever part of it speaks to you. And maybe some parts of it seem too strange or too difficult or too confusing, or whatever they might seem to you. But whatever parts about it speak to you, whatever sparks your interest or curiosity, or whatever you have a reaction to, even if you seem to have a negative reaction, you could just be aware of whatever that seems to be in regard to. So whatever aspect of what's being said, just notice your reaction, your response, your thoughts, your feelings regarding all of that. and just be open to whatever in that is true for you right now, whatever is right for you, whatever insights might come to you through this. Just be open to that. And then I really want to invite you to discover from this goodness within you, this desire for self-expression, for truthful self-expression, not for whatever you think society wants of you, or what your parents wanted of you, or what your spouse wants of you, or whatever may be the case, but what's actually authentically true of you. Just notice what is most important to you, in maybe just in this moment. What is most important? Well, maybe also contextualized in a bigger sense, both in the moment and in the bigger sense. Because maybe what's most important to you right now is like a chocolate donut or something like that, but also balanced in the bigger sense, so that you notice what's really important, what really matters to you. So whatever it is that really matters to you, it's what you are here for. What really matters is, when I'm saying what really matters to you, I mean what you know that you're really here for. That if you were to, um, if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow, what is it that you absolutely must dedicate your remaining day to? Because um, we don't know how long this life will be. The only thing we do know is that this life is the case right now. And I'm of the opinion, and I will encourage you to also be of the opinion, that this life matters, that your life matters, that it's not a mistake, and that it's a gift. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but just be open to the possibility that really maybe it is a gift. So let's make the most of the gift, and let's be true to who we are, accepting the possibility that we have been made well, that we are not a mistake, that who we are, our essence, our soul, is fundamentally good and has purpose. So I'm just inviting you, long-winded way, but hopefully some of this speaks to you. I'm inviting you to discover that essential goodness within you that has a desire for self-expression, authentic self-expression, the essence of who you are, what's really important to you, and get clear as is possible for you in this moment. Just get clear on whatever that is, and maybe there's one thing that stands out in more than anything else. Maybe there's a couple of things, and don't censor or judge. So it could be whatever it is, like maybe was actually authentically true for you, and the purpose of your incarnation is to heal physically. That's not a bad thing. That could be true. It may not be true. Only you can know what's true. But I'm just pointing out that whatever it is, just accept whatever it is, because if it's true, it's true. It doesn't need your judgment. Okay, so that's a long amount of time that we've taken with that process, and I hope that it has been somewhat clarifying to you. Now, this is what I want you to dedicate the practice to today. Whatever your top 1 to 3 authentic truths are, whatever is most important to you, sincerely dedicate the practice to that. And now, if you are comfortable on hands and knees, then I'll invite you to get on the hands and knees. And if you're not comfortable on hands and knees, then you could just sit either on the floor or on a chair. Um, and you can do some modification of what we'll explore. But if you can do it on all fours, that will be nice for you. And if not, then it wouldn't be nice for you, so don't do it that way. So take a moment now to really get into the posture, whatever posture you're choosing, really choose it. So don't be, what's the word here? Well, half-assed, I guess. Don't be half-assed about it. Really commit, because the commitment is powerful. You'll see this in your life. Anything where you actually commit, there's a tremendous amount of power. We can be uncommitted for eternity. We can be spectators for eternity, but get into the game, commit to it. So whatever it is, really be here, feel yourself here, and notice how pleasant is it. And if there's anything about it that's not pleasant, ask yourself, what are you doing that maybe is contributing to it being unpleasant? And see if you could not do that. Like maybe you're holding your breath. Maybe you're clenching your jaw. Maybe you're pressing unnecessarily. Maybe you're squeezing the thighs unnecessarily. I don't know what you're doing, but you could explore and find out and see, can you actually be in this posture in a good way? Think about that. How much of your life do you excuse doing it in a bad way? Like, not in a morally bad way, but a bad way for you, a way that doesn't feel good, a way that's not satisfying, a way that hurts, probably a lot of the time. And a lot of that is because we don't fully commit, and we don't, well, also an enormous part of that is we don't even know. We're ignorant to the fact that bliss is actually our nature and that it's our birthright. So to whatever degree you are not perceiving bliss, then just be aware that there's something that you're doing that you can eventually at least become aware of and then cease to do, so that you can not be working against yourself and you'll feel better. So if you cannot be in this posture in a good way, then it's a matter of degree, I suppose. You know, if it's just a little bit not good, then that's acceptable, because, well, it's always going to be a little bit not good, I guess, unless it's not. But so that's acceptable. But if it's a lot not good, that's not good. So it has to be workable. We have to be workable. If we're in a position where we're straining, or we're gripping, or we're clenching, where we're holding, and there doesn't seem to be any softness or workability in us, if it's just pure resistance, then that's not a good setup. So we need to set things up in a good way. So this applies obviously in this moment, in this practice, and it applies more broadly in life. So that we find, okay, I want to be workable. Let that be a meditation in and of itself. Just, God, help me be workable. And so you can just see, can I be workable? Can I be here in a good way in this posture? Okay, now if you're able to be here in a good way, then let's explore a little bit of rocking. Okay, so if you're on all fours, then you'll be rocking on all fours. And if you're not on all fours, you'll be rocking not on all fours. So if you're sitting, for example, you'd be rocking kind of like what I'm rocking, just sort of like forward and backward, just a little bit. And if you're on all fours, then you're, instead of hinging where you'd be hinging if you're sitting, you'd be hinging at the wrists and knees, just a little bit. So you're just moving in a way that's comfortable for you. And notice that as you're doing it, that you have to move with the whole self. So You can't just move a part of yourself. Whole self has to move. If you only move part of yourself, then what happens to the other part? So you need to move with the whole self. So find out how is that the whole self is moving here. So you might find that there's parts of you that you've forgotten about, parts that are just kind of coming along for the ride, moving somewhat mechanically. There's a lack of flow and fluidity and pleasure. So start to awaken those areas with your consciousness. So notice, for example, as you rock forward, what can happen in the spine? How can the spine cooperate in this in a way that feels good to you? Notice that the spine is all the way from the head to the tailbone. So everything in between. And so you're just exploring how the whole self, including the spine, is moving as you're rocking in this way. And notice that you can be aware of breathing, maybe, hopefully. If you can't be aware of breathing while you're moving, then I will suggest to you move less or more slowly, because it will be good to be aware of breathing while you're moving. Probably also generally good advice in life. Your breath is a really good support. It will help give you feedback and guidance if you allow it. You just have to be aware of it. And so you'll notice that your breath tells you about how you're feeling, how you're thinking, how the quality with which you're doing activity. And it will tell you for sure if you're conscious or unconscious. Because when you're conscious, then your breath is going to be pleasurable. It will be smooth. And if you're unconscious or going unconscious, then you'll notice that all kinds of chaotic patterns start to take over. And then, of course, you start to experience those chaotic patterns physically, mentally, emotionally. So being aware of the breath, very helpful. Okay, so I hope that you're finding that you can do this in a good way, that it's pleasurable for you. And now, if remember, you can rest at any time. This is also an important thing. So I'm not going to instruct specific rest times unless I do, but in general, I won't. So I expect that you are taking rests as you need. And that's a very helpful exercise in self-care and in self-awareness. So to really start to respect and care for yourself with love, compassion, like you would a young child, maybe, hopefully, how you would a young child, or a kitten, or a puppy, or whoever you would be very good to. Okay, you want to be good to yourself, to your body, to your mind, to your entire self in that same way. So start to see yourself in that way and be kind. Don't push so hard that you end up getting hurt. Now, for those who would like to explore something different, then I'll suggest something. And if this isn't appropriate for you, then you needn't do it. For those who would like to do so, then you can, as you are coming forward, I want you to explore letting your chest come forward and letting your shoulders be open. Slowly, smoothly, comfortably, with a sense of control, stability, and strength. So all basic things that we want to be aware of in general, reminding you of. And what you might start to notice is, if you haven't already, is that as you're coming forward, you're you're really kind of doing this backward bend a little bit so that your chest is really kind of coming forward and the spine is really curving, and you feel really maybe some interesting things in yourself that you haven't felt in this way in a while. Maybe be aware of the breath as you're doing it, and then you may also, as you're rocking back, start to explore bringing the buttocks as close to the heels as is comfortable to you. No, don't rush in that. Take your time. So some of you may find that you can bring the buttocks all the way to the heels. You could even rest. So you keep your hands where they are. And eventually, if you can come with the buttocks all the way back, you come into what's called balasana, or child's pose. It's a very restorative pose. So you can rest there if you find that nice. And if that's just not happening for you, that's totally fine. So remember, it should be gentle, comfortable, pleasurable. And if it's not, then don't do that. But what might happen eventually is you might start to find that you have quite a range, that you can actually, maybe you start to find that, and you might have to play with the placement of the hands and knees in this a little bit to find what really works for you. So don't be rigid about anything. But eventually you might find that you can, as you come forward, you can come into really like what's called Urdhva. What is this called? Urdhva Mukasana? No, Urdhva. Anyway, it's the upward facing dog is what it's called usually. So you might find that your pelvis comes all the way down to the floor, your thighs on the floor. Maybe this is just a possibility. So just take your time with it. There's no hurry, and there's no prizes given out for who can do the biggest thing. The prizes that are given out are the prizes awarded by nature to those who are most attentive to the lessons. So, this is a possibility that you find quite a range, and you might find it really lovely. Hopefully, I mean, if you find it, you should find it very lovely. If you're not finding it really lovely, you didn't find it, so don't do that. Okay. So now, next time, so hopefully you've had enough of that. I mean, I could do that for a long time, but maybe for now we'll have had enough of that. And remember that you can rest anytime that you need, and that this should feel good. And you should be able to be aware of your breathing. So you have a lot of options of things that you can do here. So don't think that you have to just do something progressive and do the next thing. You can do something regressive. You could go back to bed, lie down. That's a possibility, and that would be fine if that's appropriate. So whatever you need to do, anywhere, sitting, lying down, rocking, just on all fours, not moving, being aware of the breath, all of this is fine. Anywhere in that whole range. Now, for those who would like, we can do another variation, which is that you're on all fours, and you are going to, before you do it, I want you to first imagine it. I want you to imagine that you're going to place the top of your head on the floor while you're still on your hands and knees. So you think about that for a second as you imagine that. How are you going to do that? And if you're still on your hands and knees, unless you have a really, really long neck, or really, really short arms, or some other thing that I haven't thought of, you're gonna need to bend the arms. So be sure that you're confident about that before you attempt it. But if you feel confident that you could do that, then attempt slowly bringing the top of the head onto the floor, seeing that you can breathe. And here, I want you to mostly keep the weight in your hands, because if you put all the weight on your head, especially if you're not prepared for it, if you haven't done this a lot, and worked up to it, then you might find your head and neck are quite tender. They're not accustomed to feeling so many sensations, at least not these kinds of sensations. And uh, so you need to be very gentle with it at first, but it's only because of the habit of tension. So it's nothing inherently dangerous about this or anything or painful, but because of the habits of tension, we need to be gentle with it. But you see, can you maybe keeping most of the weight in your hands, or at least a good portion of the weight in your hands, maybe you could experiment with sort of making a little bit of a circle with your head. So the head's going to stay in contact, but it's going to kind of roll like a wobbling top a little bit on the floor. See if that's a possibility. Just small movements, nothing heroic here. Don't have to do anything that's going to impress anybody. It's just really to feel good. So that should be the aim. Now, at first you say, I don't know if I can make this feel good because it seems really awkward and uncoordinated. Yes, at first it will, because you're not accustomed to it. But that's an indication of the sensory motor amnesia. So that's why we want to practice. Your head is very, very important to you, in case you didn't know. And so we're getting an enormous amount of information all the time about our head, whether we are conscious of that or not, but an enormous amount of information. And um, a lot of that information that we're getting is muddled by sensory motor amnesia, because there's so much tension there in the neck and shoulders and head, even in the scalp, forehead. So then you go the other way. And remember, you can rest anytime. But if you're going clockwise, you go counterclockwise, and just see that it can feel good. Let it be light and gentle and pleasurable and safe, with the intention here of this healing intention. So you can recall whatever your intention is for today, and know that fundamentally, essentially, that is a good healing intention. And so here you want to bring that intention into the practice, so that you're doing this in a way that is healing, so that you can feel your head and neck and shoulders in a good way, so that you can really have a greater sense of confidence and ease in your life. Okay. All right. So now, when you're next ready to do so, slowly, I'd like you to come back on, sit on your heels if you're able to do so comfortably. And if you're not able to do so comfortably, then very slowly and gently find your way, if possible, to the chair that you have. And if that's not possible, then find a different way to sit that is comfortable for you. And if you're kneeling, I mean, sitting on the heels, and it's close to comfortable, but not quite, then like I suggested, you can fold or roll a blanket and try putting that either between the ankle and the floor, if that's where you're feeling the discomfort, or in between the lower leg and the thigh, if that's where you're feeling the discomfort, or you could put it on the between the buttocks and the heels if that makes it easier. So only sit on the heels if it's comfortable for you and you feel like confident you can do that for just a little bit. We're going to do it for a few minutes. So whatever position you're in, I would like for you to now, you're going to touch your belly with both your hands. So you're going to take your hands and you're going to put the right one on the right lower abdomen and the left one on the left lower abdomen. So the fingers are kind of angled, pointing down toward the groin. And if you're feeling daring, I guess, you can slide the fingers down all the way until the tips of the fingers are touching, or at least in the region of the pubic bone, or at least where you imagine that might be. So that your edges of your hands are kind of in the inguinal creases, if you know where those are. And the hands are just, palms are just resting on the lower abdomen. So it kind of makes a V with the hands. Hopefully that's clear to you. Now, feel what you're feeling here. How does your belly feel? How does this whole lower abdomen feel to you? Does it feel soft? Does it feel comfortable? Do you have sensation both from the fingers and within the lower abdomen? Can you sense it, or is it not so clear? Or maybe it is kind of clear, but it feels uncomfortable, tight. So you just see, what are you noticing? Both outwardly with the hands and inwardly sensing. Now, aware of your breathing. So let the breath help you to discover how you can soften here even more. So as you're inhaling, let it be a reminder to release in the lower abdomen. And as you're exhaling, maintain that same softness so that you're not tensing up as you exhale. And then after a few of those inhalations and exhalations with that intention and awareness, you can slowly start to rock forward with maintaining the hands here. And as you rock forward just a little bit, it doesn't have to, whatever's comfortable to you. It could be just 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 45 degrees. Could be all the way down, whatever is comfortable for you. But slowly, with control, you're rocking, leaning forward, keeping the hands there on the lower abdomen with the intention that you're releasing even more in the abdomen as you lean forward. And so you want to have a real clear sense that you've actually softened or released a little bit there in the lower abdomen and groin. And then as you slowly come back upright, maintain that same softness and release and awareness of the lower abdomen. And don't go further back than, or don't come any further back than allows you to maintain that same softness. Because if you lean too far back, then what will happen is you'll activate all of that and it will tense up. So you want to come just to the point where you can maintain that same release, and then do that a few more times. So you're just going to rock forward a little bit until you can feel that you can release even more in the lower abdomen. You really want to feel like you're supporting your lower abdomen in your hands so that you can just sort of like you're holding, supporting like a basket or a net, so that you can really let go in the lower abdomen. And another thing that you can help, another tip, if it's too much, you need to take it into consideration, but for those who it's helpful to, you can also use the thumbs. So you've got the rest of the fingers kind of down in the V shape, and the thumbs you can bring up to the lower ribs, so that as you're coming forward, you can be aware maybe of it if you have any tendency to collapse the chest and bring the lower ribs down and in a way that's unnecessary, and it will just help you to remember to keep the abdomen long and soft. And if that's too much for now, that's, like I say, don't worry about it. Okay, so hopefully that has been clear and helpful to you. And then when you're next ready to transition, then I'll suggest the next thing that we can explore. And remember, this is all optional, so you can do any of the things that I've suggested at any point. And please remember to rest whenever you need. So see if you can remain aware of your breathing through the nose gently as you find your way to lie on your back. So take your time with that. There's no rush. I mean, we have 16 minutes remaining, so hopefully that's enough time for you to find your way. Hopefully you can find your way into the back before that. Okay. Now, once you get onto your back, as long as it's comfortable for you, I suggest that you have your knees bent, feet on the floor. If that's not comfortable for you, then you could prop up. I didn't tell you this, that you maybe would want to have some pillows or cushions or something as a prop. But in case you have something like that around you, you could use that under the knees so that your legs could be kind of straightish, but with support under the knees, so the knees are slightly bent and supported. That would be another option. If none of that is for you, you could just have the legs straight. Hopefully that gives you enough options. But the idea here is find something that feels good, but maybe if possible, have the knees bent, and if possible, have the feet on the floor, because that will be nice. Okay. So here, put your hands like on your abdomen in the way that you did in the other position, and just see that through a few inhalations and exhalations that you can continue to soften and release in that area. And also be aware that there's a connection between the front side of your abdomen and the back side. Or we could say there's a connection between your flexion musculature on the front side of the body and your extension musculature on the back side of the body. Or we could say there's a connection between your abdomen and your spine. So notice, how much do you feel the back? How much do you feel the spine? And how much can you allow that to really be supported by the floor underneath you? Because if you consider it, why on earth do you need to be doing anything with your back right now, which is completely supported, if you would allow it to be supported, that is. So with each inhalation, you're softening the abdomen, and with each exhalation, you're continuing to let the abdomen be soft. And simultaneously with each inhalation, you're allowing for the spine to be relaxed. And with each exhalation, you're continuing to allow the spine to be relaxed, so that you feel your spine more and more, and you can feel the spine more as more supple, more relaxed, more flexible, healthier. Now, If it's comfortable for you, then bring your hands behind your head. If that's not comfortable for you, then I guess you shouldn't do it. But notice that bringing your hands behind the head, you have some options for how to do that. I mean, obviously, your hands are connected to your arms, so your arms are going to be involved, and your arms generally are going to need to be in the direction of the head in order for the hands to get there. So there's not a huge amount of variation in that regard, but there is some variation because consider where your elbows are. Your elbows could be way out to the sides. They could be resting on the floor. They could be pointing straight up or forward, as it were. They could be somewhere in between. So you kind of got like wings with your elbows. Your arms form some wings, and you can, kind of flap your wings if you wanted. But to just kind of help you be aware that you've got this range. So if you find it uncomfortable or strenuous or something, then maybe, well, not maybe, definitely you're holding some unnecessary tension somewhere. And maybe that's somewhere in the arms and shoulders or chest, generally speaking. And so you've got some things, variables that you can play with. Probably in that case, you've got a lot of tension in the shoulders, the shoulder blades. And so you can experiment with bringing the elbows together, see if that's a possibility for you. And then just see if you can find somewhere that's comfortable anywhere in there, in that range, so you can have the hands behind the head. Now notice, when you have your hands behind the head, you're touching your head. I hope you're touching your head. So feel the hands touching the head and feel the head being touched by the hands. So there's kind of two things going on, right? Because the hands are touching the head and the head is touching the hands. So you want to feel both of those. Now, we tend to feel, well, first of all, we tend to check out and not feel anything. And then secondly, when we are feeling, we tend to have a tendency to feel more with our hands than with our head. Why? Because there's more of our nervous system is just wired to the hands. But it's important in this process to be aware of the head touching the hands. So see that you can do that. And notice that the hands and the head are making this contact, and let there be a softening so that they can really yield to that contact and really come into full contact. So you might notice that you might be surprised to discover how much tension you hold in the head. You might not even have known that there were muscles and soft tissue there, but there is quite a lot of it. So feel, maybe on the back of the skull, on the side of the skull, and you can move the hands around a little bit. So don't feel like you're stuck to one thing. You can move them. They could be interlaced, fingers could be interlaced or non-interlaced, whatever works for you, but experiment a little bit and notice that you can actually start to choose to soften. So now, to help with this, I want you to slowly lift the head from the floor with your hands, just a little bit. So you're rolling, really. You're just slowly rolling. And as you're rolling, I want you to be careful and aware so that you're doing this with your arms and hands, not with your throat or abdomen. So you're letting the front side of I want you to let the front side of the body be relaxed. Well, sort of. Going to be some. Okay, there's going to be some, but just aim at making this as effortless as possible. So you're doing the least amount necessary in order to achieve this movement. And you're just slowly rolling the head so that it starts to lift off the floor. But you're not like yanking the head straight up. you're rolling it so that the back of the neck is becoming longer. And then, you lower it down. So you're just going to be just back and forth slowly, just rolling the head up and then lowering it down. Aware of your breathing, comfortable. Now, as you're doing this, you're sensitive to what you're feeling with your fingers and sensitive to what you're feeling with your head, sensitive to the contact that's being made. And I want you to feel now how this simple, gentle movement is helping you to become more aware and to choose to soften and release. So you have to be present, conscious, intentional about it. But this miracle can happen. It's not an uncommon miracle if you just follow the instructions sincerely and have positive expectation, knowing that something really wonderful can happen here. You can start to feel that your whole head and neck, face can start to soften. So you can keep this movements really, really small. You can make them slightly bigger. You can, come further with the head so that the neck is lengthening even more, or not. You can move the hands a little bit. You could move them a little further down, a little further up on the head. You could move them, as I say, you could try them interlaced. You could try them interlaced the other way. You could try them not interlaced. You could try having the thumbs on the sides of the neck. You could try having the fingertips on the sides. This is a nice one. Fingertips kind of gripping gently, but gripping on the sides, kind of like I'm demonstrating. The thumbs can be just behind the ear lobe, and that can be really, really nice. That gives you a lot of information to work from. Let the jaw relax. So this thing with the thumbs here, right, there's really kind of on the back side of the jaw, really helps to remind you of your own jaw, which can help you to release the jaw. Remember, you can rest anytime. I'll just give you a few other variations here. Now, another thing is you could go side, kind of roll to the side. So you could roll kind of curling to the left, and then you could kind of curl to the right. And all of this is just small movements. We're not talking about doing crunches or sit-ups or anything. It's just small. Like maybe the whole head will come up, maybe not, but we're not lifting the shoulders up off the floor or anything. Just small. We're really focusing here on, well, it's a whole body movement, obviously, but we're really bringing a lot of attention to the head, neck, and shoulders to soften. Now, you could experience, as I say, a miracle here. And I want you to be open to that, because really consider there's no reason why you need to have all of that tension all the time. Honestly, we all have some interesting, or maybe not even interesting, but we all have ideas about why we have all that tension. It's because of the accident we had. It's because of the way we were raised. It's because of our birth. It's because of this, that event that happened, that accident, whatever, all of these various things. But presently, right now, there's really absolutely no reason whatsoever that you need to have all that tension. So the miracle can really happen now, because all that's required is that you need to be truly ready and receptive for that healing. So just be really receptive to the complete healing, or at least the partial healing, if that's such a thing as possible. I'm not sure how that would work, but whatever you got to do, be receptive to the healing, knowing that something wonderful can happen right now, that you can you have everything that you need. You can really open to that now. Or at the very least, you could receive some sign, some confirmation that you're on the right path. You know, every time what we consider a small miracle, I mean, there's really no small or big miracles. A miracle is a miracle, but what we might consider a small miracle, like as I've pointed out, if you've had this tension in the back of your head for 50, 60, 70 years, however, you don't know how long, it's always been there. And if you experience a release of that, even a softening, even just the smallest amount, that's a miracle, because you never even knew that was possible until the miracle occurred. So it's a good sign. So at the very least, allow that. And then when you're ready, you can just come to rest here and just let your arms be at your sides, if that's comfortable for you. If you're not comfortable in this position, then find a different position that you can slowly, with awareness, move to, so that you can really be comfortable, or at least somewhat comfortable, supported. And we're going to take just a few minutes to consciously conclude our guided practice for today. And as we are doing this, be aware of the breath. So as much as is possible, at least please breathe through the nose. If that's really uncomfortable for you or stressful for you, then at least attempt to breathe through the nose as much as possible. And allow yourself to really enjoy the breath. We're receiving this gift all the time. So every moment of our life. And we often overlook it. But it really is the gift of life. Without the breath, we wouldn't be alive. So here we are receiving this all the time. And by being attentive to it now, we can help ourselves to receive that gift in a better way, in a way that's congruent with our intention in this life. So again, recall your intention. And as you with each inhalation, I want you to notice that this gift of life is coming to you, renewed with every inhalation. So receive that inhalation with openness, humility, and gratitude. And notice that as you open to that it can really become a pleasurable experience. So let it really be pleasurable. And if it's not, the same as with the earlier exploration of this theme, then be really interested to find out why it's not, because it's something that you're in the habit of doing that makes it uncomfortable. So you can become aware of that, and then you can cease to do it. And then you will be able to more fully receive and enjoy the gift of life. So with each inhalation, you're receiving that, and have gratitude that this gift of life is here to support you in the fulfillment of your good intention. So whatever that is, whatever form of healing that is, just simply with gratitude, receive each inhalation as a support in the fulfillment of your good intention. And then with each exhalation, allow the exhalation also to be pleasurable. So the exhalation, with each exhalation, we can surrender to the universal. to the divine, to nature, to God, spirit, truth. So with each exhalation is an affirmation of the fundamental goodness of life. So each inhalation, you're receiving life with gratitude, accepting that gift for the fulfillment of your good intention. So it's an affirmation of your fundamental goodness, that you are good, that you're at the soul level, you are pure goodness. So you're receiving the gift of life in support of your fundamental goodness for the fulfillment of your good intention in this life. And each exhalation is an affirmation of the fundamental goodness of life itself, that you are supported, that your highest and greatest truth, the ultimate goodness, is even beyond your capacities, is given to you without you having to be worthy of it or deserving of it or any of that kind of thing, that it's just fundamentally good. So you can trust and surrender to that. So each breath is a meditation, and it should feel good, pleasurable. And if it doesn't, let it be pleasurable. It doesn't have to be a big breath. It doesn't have to be a small breath. It doesn't have to be slow. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be anything other than what is true and truly pleasurable and authentic. It's probably not going to be hyperventilation, most likely. But you never know. So as we conclude our guided practice, just one more time, know that you are good, that life is good, that you are supported in your good intention, that you are needed, that you are important, that you are a gift, and that you are gifted. You're gifted with life. You're gifted with goodness. You're gifted with support. So there's no rush. Whenever you are ready, you can slowly, with awareness, move to the next thing that's happening in your life. For those who are here live, we can stay on for the Q&A. So whatever that means for you, you can continue to just soak in the goodness and healing, or you can make your way to a different posture if that's more comfortable for you. I am going to end the recording now, so you have been warned about that.